Hi, I'm Scott Koblish, a DC comic book artist, and I'm going to show you how to draw an entire scene featuring Batman and the Joker. We will walk through drawing the characters and create a background that will help provide context to why they're there. Yeah, it must be nice to know where you actually are. In previous episodes, I've shown you how to draw each character of 5 characters in the Batman universe. We did Harley Quinn and Batwing and Batman, Batgirl, and the Joker. And in this episode, we're going to do an entire scene where Batman and the Joker face off against one another in an amusement park. Like previous episodes, you're going to be able to draw along at the same time that I'm drawing this. This one will be a little bit more advanced because we're doing a larger scene with the Joker and Batman we're going to be creating an environment around them. So let's get started on this action-packed scene. I'm going to take the blue pencil and just sort of rough out some of the sweeping motions that I kind of want to rough out. I want to give a little bit of like a swoop, and we're going to pull down because roller coasters have a support system that are built underneath the roller coaster. Just going to rough that sort of thing in. And then Ferris wheels are a very big aspect of amusement parks, so I'm going to throw in a little Ferris wheel off to the side here. What I'm going to try and do is, because I've got 2 big swooping like aspects here, I'm going to try and keep it off balance a little bit here. And then I'm going to pick a place for the vanishing point. And then I think what I'm going to do is have Batman somewhere in the center of this swoop. And then I'll have Joker down here where he's sort of facing off and ready for Batman to leap at him. I think that what I'll do here is make it so that this is almost a 3/4 view of Joker so that we get a good aspect of seeing him on the roller coaster. I'm going to flesh out the roller coaster itself a little bit here. Here's the front of the roller coaster. Here is the internal bucket where the seats would be. And Joker is standing. I'm going to have him standing on one of the seats, just sort of taunting Batman as Batman jumps on towards him. So now roller coasters have a segmented thing, so we're going to just focus on a little bit of that first. We have a couple of cars. I'm going to have one of these cars be the car that I think that Batman is going to jump out of. And I think that I will have him jump out of this one here. So off he goes. This is where the action line is important. Like you want to have just an action line between the 2 main characters. So here comes Batman. He's going to be jumping out and leaping towards the Joker. The important thing to remember is that at this phase especially, we're not beholden to anything. If it's not working, we will erase and change aspects of the way that the leg is drawn, for instance, or the way that the motion is drawn. Just for an example, I think I need a little bit more, like a bigger car for the roller coaster. So I'm gonna just make it a little larger, each car, just increasing the size. And then I'm just gonna continue the roller coaster into the distance as we go up the roller coaster ride. I'm lucky enough to have a horizontal that I can kind of frame everything in. We can kind of frame it like that, as if it's in a panel. The great thing about that is that it'll give me some area that I can kind of focus my attention toward, and it'll give me some ability to sort of look at the frame and make it so that this circle is cut off in about 1/3 or 1/4 of it. Just it helps to have something like that, keep the composition flowing and unresolved. So with the roller coaster, we got the support struts that I'm gonna start filling in here in blue. And then for this one, I'm gonna use the vanishing point just to sort of give myself an indication of like how the support struts are going to go from this point and in that fashion. This helps out as well in that I am trying to show Batman leaping in a particular direction. So he's leaping again towards the Joker here, but because I've got this great vanishing point here, the support struts are going to follow along and sort of almost give us the notion that he's leaping along with that line of motion. On the support, they oftentimes have almost like a double area where there's a ton of support at the top section of it. And then there's a series of support struts that go down from it. So I noticed that they will build out a little bit of extra support so that these support struts go up and down to prevent something from falling down. And then they've got a support strut that goes along in the center from the top of one down to the bottom of another. Roller coasters are super fun just because the people who design them are pretty much geniuses, I think. All right, I have a good sense of what I want out of the blue pencil now. And I'm going to, maybe I'll put a little tower or something like that in the background. Sometimes at amusement parks, they have like a tower that people can go into or some fun like building that they can go into. And I'll draw a little bit of that out in the back. This is way in the distance. A great thing to remember when you're creating a drawing, especially something like a scene like this, is that you want to actually have a situation where you are building in a foreground, middle ground, and background. The roller coaster and Batman and the Joker are in the foreground here. Middle ground would be where the roller coaster goes to somewhere around here. So you've got some of the structural struts in the roller coaster. That would be what I would consider sort of middle ground, as well as this Ferris wheel back here. That would be also sort of middle ground. And then the far background would be just this little castle that I'm building off in the background here. Now that I've finished with my blue pencil rough outline, blocking out the shapes and the action, I'm going to choose a pencil and start to tighten up and figure out exactly what the rest of the drawing is going to look like. Again, I start with whatever you sort of want to start with. You don't have to worry about being very finicky about where you start something. For me right here, we're going to start with Batman and the main action of him leaping from the roller coaster off towards the Joker. Yeah, as a child, I used to love drawing Batman leaping around, and I think that line of action and the motion of him like jumping around and doing action, that's the kind of stuff that really appeals to me. I love the aspect of Batman's cape sort of leaping up behind him. It's almost as if he's got a bit of a shadow, like he's followed by something that has some aspect of excitement and mirroring the motions that he's actually doing. So now that I've figured Batman loosely out, I'm gonna turn my attention to the Joker here. Joker is, I'm gonna have him mocking Batman, you know, in a taunting sort of manner. And I wanna try and like work on just a barest outline. I don't have to do too much yet because I haven't figured out exactly what shape everything is in. It's tempting when you're drawing and you get to a part that's interesting, such as a human face, to really just start working in the details, but I think it can be counterproductive. I want you to try and focus on just roughing everything in first, and then we can work on some of the details together. When you are doing a scene, you really are focusing on what's happening all around these characters. So whereas you normally would spend a little bit more time initially figuring out the character, it's better to have these moments where you're in this sort of thing, where you're spending some time just overlooking the whole thing. With the side of the car here, we're gonna make a sweeping motion out, and we're gonna pull it almost horizontal to the page and then turn it a little bit more. So this is an exciting roller coaster that's starting out in one spot and winding up in a different area. And then I think I'll end of the car is there. We'll follow the track up a little bit, but the track will go down here. Now roller coasters are on wheels, but wheels are on a track, so it's like a train. The thing that I also noticed as far as roller coaster wheels is that, and you might not have seen this on a lot of them, is that there is actually a wheel that goes horizontal to the action as well as vertically to the car. So that was an interesting find that I saw when I was doing my research on roller coasters. I urge you, whenever you're doing a scene, take a look at what is actually in the real situation there. If you're drawing a scene with a car, please take a look at a car. If you're drawing a scene in a house, take a look around your house, take a look around your kitchen, take a look around your studio, office, or bedroom, wherever you're setting the action, and try and give some thought to that sort of stuff. What I want to try and do is avoid tangents. So, and by tangents, I mean like a situation where if I were to draw this support strut, that it were to touch the bottom of Batman's foot or the knee or something like that. Sometimes it's unavoidable to have to be able to do that, but in this case, I want to try and avoid that sort of thing. The reason that you want to try and avoid tangents is that what it'll do is it creates these odd moments in the drawing where you are trying to create this illusion that there's space and distance and depth to the drawing, but as soon as you draw something where you've got let's say you've got Batman's foot here, and then you draw like the bottom of the support beam, it creates just a different thing. Like what it does is it just creates like those two things are now connected, but connected in a flat way. Whereas if you were to draw Batman's foot and then overlap it, like that creates a situation where you can see that Batman's foot is over that support beam. It's a situation where you created this illusion of one thing in front of the other. Whereas in this situation, it looks like you can't really tell if he's standing on it or behind it or with it or what. But with this one, you definitely know that he's in front of it. So that's the sort of thing that I try and keep in mind when I'm drawing backgrounds and figures. We're gonna have the support strut go this way, I think. So we'll have Batman's cape overlap it a bit. Again, trying to avoid any of those tangents. And that'll give us some depth that way. One thing that I will be continually going back to is the vanishing point here, in order to tell the story of like where things are in relationship to a single point. In perspective, you want to choose a vanishing point or a series of vanishing points. Sometimes you can do a 3-point perspective or a 4-point perspective or whatever kind of amount of perspective points you want within a drawing. Most people keep it solid at 1, 2, or 3. I've drawn some drawings where the perspective points are sometimes 5 different perspective points, all along the same horizon line, but it can get really complicated really fast. I guess when you are composing a scene, if I were to give any advice to young artists that are starting out, is I would just say, like, give yourself some things that you would love to draw, and then try and challenge yourself with some things that you do not want to draw. I think it's a balance when you're learning to try and give yourself a few challenges, but to also make it so that you're not agonizing over the things that you're doing. So I think, more to my point of being able to adjust things on the fly, I think that I'm going to shrink Batman's figure here to match up a little closer to the size of the Joker. Just shrink him down a little bit, just a little, not very much, just enough to give him a sense of being on the same plane as the Joker. So he's a much larger figure than the Joker, but not too terribly large, so. Now that will give me the trouble of having like possibly this tangent from the support strut, but we'll see if we can't like fix that. One of the things that you'll find as you're drawing is that sometimes there's a lot more erasing going on than drawing. He has that wonderful bat insignia on his chest. You're not going to get as much detail on it here as you will in other aspects of when we see him, but I just want to start fleshing that in. He's also got that belt, that fascinating belt with 1,000 different things inside of it. I like how Batman's belt is. It's pretty neat to have all those gadgets and toys. I wish that I had something like that, bat shark repellent and things like that. It's always fun. Batman has those really heavy soles on the bottom of his shoes, so I'm going to make sure that those are there. When we were setting up how to draw DC and all the DC characters, one of the considerations was how detailed to get with the figure work and the backgrounds. We wanted to give everybody an overview of how we tackled all the problems, but we also wanted to give them some things that they could really do to try and learn how to be a little bit more advanced with some of the work. I think we did a great job sort of splitting the effort. It's a book where you can pick it up having not really ever drawn anything before, and it's also a book that you can pick up where if you have drawn a lot of things and you want to get to a better place, a more advanced place in your work. So How to Draw DC was just a wonderful experience for me. I thought everybody did a great job working on it. The writer on it is a dear friend of mine named Steve Bunch, and I thought he just did a great job of handling all the real complicated descriptions of the things that I sit down and do without even thinking. We would have a little discussion about, he would say, well, what is it that you call this aspect of this drawing? And I would say, well, it's this. And, he would say, well, that's not descriptive enough. I need something a little bit more to have a sense of like what it is that you're doing when you're doing it. So it was really neat. I really thought that it was just a great way to put it down into words. Again, you can get that book, How to Draw DC, anywhere that fine books are sold. And you can get a much more in-depth look into how to stage a scene and how to draw characters than I'll be able to give in this tutorial. But, I urge you to just take the time and enjoy yourself. And, if you get the book, you can get some really wonderful insights as to how to draw characters from the DC Multiverse. So now that we've penciled in pretty tightly the drawing, we're going to take a chance to start inking. I use a crow quill for the majority of my work. That's a dip pen. It's a quill pen that you just put into a holder. And again, oftentimes I will turn the page just to get the right angle on the pen. And I do a tremendous amount of thinking when I'm inking it. I know that kind of rhymes horribly, but it's helpful to give just as much thought when you're inking it as it is to try and pencil in. In this respect, like I tried to extend out the thumb and the forefingers just a little bit while I'm doing it. I started with the Batman figure just because I thought it would be best to try and make sure he's squared away. It is the point of focus that I want to try and make sure doesn't get lost, the interaction between Batman and the Joker. So Batman is absolutely our hero in this scene, and it's super important for him to be just front and center in the best way possible. He's always he's doing the impossible, but he makes it look easy. I'm treating the cape almost as an object of design at this point. It's important when you're working on objects that have a flow or importance that you give some thought to how the design looks. It helps to sort of thinking about it. Batman's cape has been drawn, boy, just a million different ways. But there's always this element of it being a scalloped cape, that there's a roundness to it. Especially at the ends here, you can see that this image is just a sort of a scalloped image. And I think that's something that I give a lot of thought towards. Inking is a wet media, so oftentimes there's a push and pull between wanting to make sure that you're following the work that you're doing, but without smudging or smearing the ink. Sometimes that happens to me quite a bit. You'll see that sometimes I've been pulling up the piece of paper in order to just change the light so that I can see if something's wet. No, it doesn't look great in the camera, but it's very helpful to me so that I don't actually stumble across inking something with my hand as opposed to inking it with my brush or my pen. I've smudged all sorts of pages, and really what you do in that situation is that you just take out your whiteout, and you just take away the smudge where you can and fix it. Obviously, as you get older and have more experience, you'll have fewer and fewer times where you'll have to smudge the ink by accident, but boy, that's happened to me many, many times. Just as disappointing each time it happens, too. This is going to sound strange, but it's always good to make sure that you're exercising on a regular basis. It's always good for you to eat properly. That means vegetables and fruit. And your posture, if you can work on that when you're drawing. Just sort of sitting in a way that's not challenging your back in any way, or giving your spine a workout that you don't. I have a desk that can transition between a standing desk and a sitting desk. I've found that that's invaluable. So there are ways that you can, the way that I put it is work towards success. You want to have a successful work life. You want to have a successful life. There are things that you need to do in order to have both of those. Exercise, hanging out with your friends, making sure that you have a good time in your life. That really helps out. When I was very young, I just decided I was going to be a cartoonist, and that was the beginning and end of it. I didn't have a plan B, but I had not really given much thought to the kind of life that I wanted to have beyond just being a cartoonist. So that's taken a while for me to get a little more comfortable with. Being a cartoonist is a very sedentary, solitary job. So it's important for you to have some balance in your life. Now, the one trouble with working with live ink is that oftentimes it does take a while for ink to dry. I'm going to switch over to some technical pens at the same time that I'm drawing with my crow quill, in order to just give myself a chance to try a few different lines for a few different sections. I'm going to draw in a very thin line the background here. I'm not going to spend too much time trying to delineate any of the details in the background. When the colorist comes in, he or she will fill this in with a number of some sort of color. Excited to see. I don't really know what color they'll choose, but a color that'll give a little bit of depth to it, but not overwhelm the story between Joker and Batman here. I'm going to put a little details on the wheels here. And I want to try and keep the energy level of it going so that things don't freeze up in the drawing. Oftentimes you can really get lost in all the details and it doesn't improve the drawing any. So I did want to focus a little bit on that really neat aspect of roller coasters where you can see the sides of the wheels. I thought that was a fascinating thing, sort of pulling together the track as well. I think that always having one eye on what to cartoon and one eye on how to describe the world as best as you possibly can. Those are the two sort of leading lights in any drawing. Everything that you take in the world, you're interpreting. And that's the great thing about cartooning especially, is that you are the interpreter of this drawing. You're the person that's sitting down and figuring out what aspects of this drawing that you're going to focus on, and as a result, the aspects of the drawing that your reader is going to focus on. It can be as deliberate or as accidental as that. And I think that that's the wonderful thing about drawing, that you have this aspect of you're the one in control of what it looks like. You're the one in control of what story you're telling, and in control of what sort of story that they're seeing. Switching back to a quill, back and forth between the quill and the more technical pens. There's no rhyme or reason to it. Just getting to a place where I thought it would be better to be able to do some quill work, and other places where it seems like doing more technical pen work would be advantageous. I think that what I'm going to do for the struts in the roller coaster is that I am going to make them into a silhouette, I think. I'm giving some thought to that now while I'm doing this aspect of the drawing. Just giving some thought to saying, well, what would I gain out of that? What would I lose out of that? Again, inking is thinking. It's important to sort of look at it that way. So when I was young, I was very nervous about showing my artwork to other people. I got over it, but it was not an easy easy transition. I found that one of the ways that I was able to get past it was I had a job after college that was selling video cassette tapes door to door in business districts, sports bloopers, and that had a tremendous amount of rejection. So I would go over and to each place, and everyone would throw me out. They'd say, "We don't want it, please leave." And after a while, it was my job to continually just poke and continually get people to try and look at this product. And I thought, well, if I can do that, if I can sort of like say to somebody else and say like, boy, you really need this product that you don't really need. I can do that for myself. Say to somebody else, I can say, this is something that I actually believe in, and my work is something I actually believe in, and I think that you should come take a look at it. But it was not an easy transition. It's not easy to sort of say to somebody, take a look at this thing that I put my heart and soul into for the last day, week, month, and then say like, what do you think about it? That's a really vulnerable position to be in. This happens sometimes, where I will get a blob of ink. And basically what I do is I try and create a little wick that out of a piece of paper that sort of sucks up as much of the ink as I possibly can. I'll do that once or twice just to create something that you can pull the ink up around there. And then I will just dab it like that. And that'll take up most of the ink there. And what I'll do is when I get to that part of the drawing, I will put a little white out into that section, but only after I get to that point. Oftentimes I will take a little bit of time if I'm drawing something complicated and do a little study of that thing. Before I even got here, I took out some time to look up a reference on roller coasters, and I drew, just from looking at them, I drew one or two until I got to a place where I kind of intuitively understood what it was that I was drawing. And then for cartooning, it's helpful you almost want to get to a place where you're familiar enough with something to forget about it. And that sounds a little counterintuitive, but you want to make it so that you're a little more instinctive with your work. The other way that I could sort of talk about it is that for a while I was a musician, and you want to get to a place where you've learned the song well enough to forget that you're playing the chords or any of the structure or anything like that, and you want to get to the place where you're really just like giving the best emotional performance that you can possibly give. And that takes a lot of familiarity. It takes a lot of practice to get to the point where you can forget about what it is that you're doing. That's a long-term goal. I've found that That's something that a lot of my friends and I talk about amongst ourselves as far as how we approach our work. It's almost a goal that becomes a little further along for more advanced people. It's good to know ahead of time that that'll be the goal that you want to try to achieve, a place where you can forget about the work that you're doing in order to get the best performance, the best result. But that's the way that I approach a lot of these things. I'll take a look at the roller coaster and do a couple drawings of it until I can figure out exactly what it is that I'm looking at and how a roller coaster functions. Okie doke. Well, we have the final image here. I think it turned out really nicely. It's Joker and Batman facing off in Amusement Mile. All right, now let's clean this up with our eraser. Now that we've finished this aspect of it, the inking aspect, we're gonna hand this over to the colorist. The colorist will come in and really make it sing. And the great thing about the stuff that they do is that they're really careful about making sure that foreground elements are separated from the background elements. Please check out more episodes that we have on how to draw the DC Multiverse. In addition, you can check out my book, How to Draw DC, for more of an in-depth process on how to draw Batman, superheroes, and supervillains. Until next time, I'm Scott Koblish, and I look forward to drawing with you again soon. I also look forward to channeling my inner superhero and finding my way out of this void. Nope. Does anybody have a flashlight? Help.